Daily Life Connection. Thanks for joining us again today as we continue to explore Luke chapter 15. Today we're going to look at verses 20 to 22, and what I want to focus on is that the Father made sure that the Son's first experience in returning home was one of grace, not law. The Son's first experience with the Father is grace, not law. The religious conservatives of that day and of our day would probably want the Father to lay down the law to this Son, make sure he understands the gravity of his sins, make sure he understands how he has shamed the Father and hurt the Father, make sure that he will promise to commit to better behavior. The whole focus of the law is on performance and behavior, and complying with the standards that God has set down. It's just shocking that this Father doesn't take that route. Jesus, in telling this story, is making sure that we understand that God's primary concern is grace, not law. His primary concern is not to get this Son to conform to understand and conform to the law and to what's right and to what's wrong. Because you see, the law is so much like the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, isn't it, in the Garden of Eden? Where, Adam and Eve were tempted to become more godly by knowing what's right and what's wrong and complying with that and in their own strength, working out their righteousness. Well, that's what the law does. It says you're unrighteous because of your behavior, and these are the behaviors that will make you righteous. And so they expected that when this Son came home, the Father would say, now you realize that was sin and that was sin, and what you've done is wrong here, and you need to repent of that, and you need to change this behavior, and you need to do more of this, and you need to do less of that. They expected a law lecture. And instead, this Father hugs and blesses and celebrates this Son. That's grace. So this Son's first experience in returning to the Father is one of grace. Amazing, isn't it? He hugs him and kisses him and gifts him and celebrates him with a party. This Father lavishes these blessings beyond his wildest dreams. This kid was hoping that maybe the Father would let him become a hired servant and live in one of the bunkhouses and have the share food with the servants. But this Father is not only just welcoming him home, but he's blessing him with the best robe, and he's putting that ring and sandals on his feet, and he's celebrating with the very choicest of banquet. He just goes way over. See, that's grace. God going overboard in his blessing of you and I. Isn't that a good way to think of it? Grace is God going scandalously overboard in his blessing of sons and daughters who have messed up and failed. That is such an amazing God. That is such a wonderful picture of who he is, and it's in such contrast to the religious sort of picture of who God is. Our first experience when we turn our face toward God is one of grace. Every time we turn our face toward home, we can fully expect that God will scandalously bless us, that he will go overboard in his response to us in a positive and glorious and wonderful and loving, merciful way. That will be his response to us, not law. When we turn to God, you see, it's so sad to me that so often when we go to the Scriptures, when we read the Scriptures, what we're looking for is the law. We're looking for what I'm doing right and what I'm doing wrong and how I need to change and I need to be more like this. That's looking for the law. Let's go to the Scriptures expecting to encounter this God of grace, to hear what he's done for us, to hear how much he loves us, to hear the blessings that he has for us, the promises that are ours, the status that we now have with him, holy, blameless, without fault, in his presence, in his eyes, because of what Christ has done for us. We can come boldly, confidently to the throne of grace, fully expecting God to bless and God to welcome and God to grace us and favor us. Just such a wonderful picture This son comes home, and the father treats him like he's the favorite son. He treats him like he's one of his very most favorite people, which just blows the mind of those listening and ours as well. We need to understand that as you and I come to him today, he's going to treat us like we are one of his most favorite people. That's incredibly good news. Let's think about it. Let's rejoice in it. And let's just let him hug us today. We'll talk again tomorrow. God bless.